don't know, there's a lot going on in crypto on a regular basis. Not just trading, not just NFTs and ordinals and runes, things like that. Web3 games. There's a lot more than that going on. First of all, I'll mention that one particular rune that I find interesting is the Infinite Money Glitch, produced by the Whales NFT project, the Nakamoto Whales Ordinals. That group of people. They've created their website collectibles.xyz, and collectibles is spelled COLL3CTIVBLES.xyz. Collectibles were the first E's of 3. Anyway, if you signed up to that in the past and you had any whales, or Nakamoto whales, OG Nakamoto whales in your wallets, then you were, when there was a snapshot, then you would be qualified to claim tickets. And then if you got those tickets and you held them in your wallet, then in the second snapshot, there was basically now the ability to claim the number of game items. The first act of the game, minting is open. Yesterday it was public mint. Today it's the mint for the holders claim. And basically you can mint one item for each 100,000 of the runes that you hold. And if you have a ticket from the Nakamoto Mystery Runes tickets that were issued after the halving on April 20th, it's for each ticket, it's 100,000 runes. So if you have, for example, one whale, and you get 300,000 runes, so you can mint 3 of those game artifacts or items as a holder. And the mint price is like 0.00015 BTC for each item you mint as a holder. And if you have, I think, 50 or more whales, then you don't actually have to mint anything. They'll be airdropped, because it takes quite a long time to mint 50 items manually on Bitcoin blockchain. So the creators of the project said that they would just airdrop them to people who hold 50 or more Nakamoto whales or tickets or whatever qualifies them. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that real quick, because that is one particular NFT / rune / ordinals project groovy music project. They make cool music. Anyway, so Bitcoin security and crypto security in general. Really, I want to talk about the crypto security in general, and specifically exchanges. Now, there's an exchange called Kraken, which is reputedly pretty good in terms of its service to customers. They have considerably, let's just say, not low fees, but supposedly high quality. I mean, I think they're pretty good, especially if you're trying to use an exchange in the States, or just in general, if you're an American living overseas, even. It's a good exchange, at least in terms of reputation. But they recently were hacked. Now, don't worry, everybody's funds are safe, at this time anyway. But what happened is a white hat group of hackers, or so they call themselves, a group called like Certix or something like that, Certif, they found a loophole. They found some kind of a hackable loophole where you could move money from the chain, from Kraken's treasury wallets, basically, into an offline, someone's personal wallet, or even, I think, credit card or something like that. So they did this by moving $4 to test the concept, and that was they managed to do it successfully. And they did this according to the bug report. I guess originally at first, there's rules for the bug bounty program for Kraken, just as there are for pretty much every tech company that has a bug bounty program, which is practically every tech company. And basically what that is a program that lets developers look for loopholes and bugs in the code, and if they find them, to test them appropriately according to the rules, and to report them according to the rules. And if they do, they can win a certain reward. Sometimes the reward are very clearly specified, sometimes they're not, but there's usually some kind of a worthy reward when you find a real bug and you report it properly. The thing is, after they tested the concept and validated the concept by moving $4, they didn't report it properly, apparently, allegedly. Instead, what they did is they told a couple of their friends, and I guess word got around a couple of their friends, or more people maybe, and they collectively moved something like $3 million off of Kraken and into some other wallet, and then from there they moved it to Tornado Cash. Why would they do that? It's anybody's guess. Maybe they figured they'd hold on to it with some kind of barter, leverage point, something, because then they contacted Kraken and reported the bug and told them, we have some business ideas we'd like to explore with you. Let's have this conversation, and then we'll see about how much we need to actually return. Figuring they probably have some kind of leverage, without saying as much, that, hey, we're basically holding $3 million of your dollars, hostage or whatever, not hostage, but, we're holding $3 million of your dollars. We've effectively robbed you $3 million. And now if you want it back, you have to agree to do some kind of business with us first, at which point we'll decide how much, if anything, we'll return. So Kraken saw that the bug was real, didn't appreciate the manner in which they didn't just do the test at $4, which would have been fine when they proved the concept, but that they then obviously moved an additional $3 million and only then reported it to Kraken without saying, hey, here's the money back, or here, where can we send it back to right now, that kind of thing. So Kraken didn't take kindly to that and decided that they're going to report them to the police for robbery, for theft, right? Because it is definitely something that is worthy probably of at least an investigation. The question is whether or not they will get an investigation, whether or not there'll be any charges to be pressed, whether or not it'll be a prosecutable offense, etc., because they do, after all, have a bug bounty program. And if it's not specified in the bug bounty program details how much a hacker is allowed to move and what they're allowed to do, etc., those are all questions that would need to be answered probably by lawyers, etc., in court. Who knows? Well, apparently Kraken didn't just stop there. Certix alleges that Kraken threatened their employees, even personally, in some way, who knows what, but they allege that in some statement they made yesterday. And now it's a whole back and forth between who's telling the truth and who's not. Initial reactions in the Twitterverse, a lot of people were supporting Kraken because this just seemed like plain and obvious highway robbery, basically. And some people were supporting the developers, saying, listen, if they didn't specify this and that, then they were allowed to do this thing. My sense is that you shouldn't need to have to move $3 million. Okay, you're going to get your bounty if you play by the rules, whatever it is. Maybe it's $50, maybe it's $500, maybe it's $5,000, whatever it is. You didn't have to move $3 million out of Kraken's treasury Kraken says, by the way, that that came out of their personal, or no, their company treasury wallet, so it didn't affect anybody's assets, that the funds are all safe, and they corrected the bug immediately. But that they went to step, that the developers, the so-called white hat developers, white hat researchers, white hat hackers, whatever you want to call them, they went a step too far by taking this amount of money. And I would have to, without knowing all of the details, but at first glance, it certainly seems like, taking $3 million is more than a bit exorbitant, right? It reeks of extortion, frankly. Maybe we don't know the full details, like I said. Certix alleges that Kraken didn't offer them a wallet address to send it back to. So again, we don't know. Those are facts being discovered, I guess, at some point. And we'll see what happens, but it's a good reminder of why you should not leave funds, especially funds you can't afford to lose, on an exchange. Centralized exchanges get hacked all the time. This is hardly the first time we've seen an exchange get hacked, right? And very often they're done by actual thieves who don't give the money back, who just disappear. And it's not always possible to catch them. Often they have been caught, but very often not. And it happens a lot. And it happens more than you know, because only the ones that get reported make any news. And of course, people that get hacked are not prone to telling the world, yeah, we got hacked. What they do instead is, if they can afford to pay for it without making any news, then they'll just, lose that money, write it up as a loss on their ledger, and then just cover up the damage. And since their treasuries are private, they don't have to share what's in their treasury necessarily, unless they're a publicly regulated company, etc. Then they can just basically hide the damage. And if nobody notices it, well, so be it. And how would you know that there's any damage if you don't have access to their books? But obviously, when it affects actual traders' money, it's a huge hack that takes the entire company's exchange wallet, which, as crazy as it sounds, is a thing that has happened on multiple occasions. Then those things are obviously harder to hide, and people have to announce it and stuff. And some places announce it anyway, because they want to show that they're transparent, etc., and that they want to reassure traders, so there's no finding out later if the hackers come out and do a tell-all or whatever, anonymously or not anonymously or whatever. So some places do announce it, but most places will try to hide it as much as possible. That's just the nature of how things go in the operational security world, is you don't want people to know you have flaws, right? You want to make sure that you are as secure as possible, and that as few people as possible know that there's any problems. So, and that when there are problems, you fix them and you cover things up and you do whatever's necessary so that mum's the word, right? As long as it doesn't affect operations and business and all that stuff. So that's what happened on that count, and it's not good, obviously. It's quite bad, but it's a reminder of why you should not leave your crypto on any centralized exchanges, except when you're actually trading them, because they're not secured. They're secured, but they're not regulated in most cases. And even the ones that are can get hacked. It's not impossible to hack a centralized exchange. It's happened multiple times. And that's why it's incredibly important to keep your actual assets in your, offline wallets, basically, if you want to actually keep them secure. Whether that's a hardware wallet, a paper wallet, a brain wallet. I know people don't recommend that, because if you make even one little letter or number mistake, then you don't have access to your keys. But some people have photographic memory that are good enough to, to do that. But a good hardware wallet, offline, not plugged in, kept in preferably a Faraday cage or something like that, or secured in some kind of vault, and have a few copies of it in different places, and make sure that your seed phrase is never stored in just one place. And just remember that a wallet is really just a key. They call it a wallet because you think you have your money on there, but actually it's just a key to unlock the blockchain you're looking at with it at any given time to see what's in your account, in your wallet, if you will, on the actual blockchain, right? Because your crypto is always on the wallet. Even if you lose your hardware wallet, as long as you have your seed phrase, you can still get into it through other ways. So that's one thing. The other thing is about EU privacy. And there's been an anti-privacy law being pushed. It's an anti-privacy bill right now by a Swedish EU Parliament member who is, saying that for the children, right, to protect the children, the old line that's always given for anything to do with electronic surveillance, they want to monitor chats of all citizens, with possible exceptions for law enforcement, military, etc. But then, of course, it'll be like relatives of those military people, and friends of those relatives, and special ambassadors, and who knows what. Right? There'll be all kinds of special exceptions. But for the most part, the EU basically wants the right to monitor people to make sure that they're not doing anything to potentially harm or exploit children, which sounds like a good thing and probably even is. But that very quickly becomes a slippery slope, just like GDPR. And many years ago made a lengthy video about that, why I don't think it's a good thing. It's because it's a ridiculous thing to have GDPR, but this is even more ridiculous and dangerous thing where you're literally spying on every citizen in the EU, just like the NSA is spying on every citizen in the US and beyond that. So that's a serious issue of concern, because the slippery slope is it'll go from protecting the children to AML, again, another good cause, but it'll keep going. Maybe next they'll want to, go after editorial cartoonists or people who make jokes about people in power, et cetera, et cetera. Like, eventually, this becomes a very dangerous slippery slope, and it's something you got to keep in mind and be aware of. So, protect your privacy and don't do stupid things. Do good things. See ya.